Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Newsbrowse News broadcast. The International Monetary Fund, World Bank, International Energy Agency, and World Trade Organization have jointly warned that the ongoing conflict in the Middle East is severely exacerbating global energy supply tensions, with the most dire consequences for vulnerable economies. According to a joint statement released by their leaders on Friday, global oil stocks are depleting at a record pace due to a significant reduction in energy supplies passing through the Strait of Hormuz. They emphasize that if shipping traffic does not normalize, the continued rapid decline in global oil inventories before the Northern Hemisphere's summer peak demand will pose increasing risks to fuel security, market conditions, and broader economic resilience. Furthermore, the organizations reiterated that the war-induced surges in energy and fertilizer prices are particularly affecting low-income countries, with rising fertilizer costs being a major concern as many nations enter their planting seasons. This warning comes from Lefalo Yorgay Allo Hard Day Put Quokka. We're lighting for to come Sir Rotting Hezen Slate the Don't Unas, Don't Say Sabo. This warning comes from Lefalo Yor Bets. And Sadat Ja Thai Sounds, citing the South China Morning Post, reports that China expressed deep concern over record-high U.S. arms sales to Taiwan under Trump 2.0 and pressured the United States to halt approvals around the recent Trump-Xi summit. Beijing reportedly made this a condition for Chinese President Xi Jinping accepting an invitation for a visit from U.S. President Donald Trump. Under Trump 2.0, two significant arms sales packages have already been approved, totaling $330 million and $11.1 billion. Additionally, the U.S. Congress approved a $14 billion sale in January that Trump has yet to sign. China aims to curb this trend, preferring a return to the smaller-scale sales seen during the Biden administration, which totaled approximately $8.4 billion over 4 years. Beijing views this period as an opportune moment to test the limits of Washington's commitment to Taiwan and influence U.S. policy. While Trump indicated he would make a decision on the sales soon and sees them as a negotiating chip, the acting U.S. Navy Secretary stated the $14 billion sale was temporarily paused to ensure adequate ammunition for U.S. military operations in Iran. Experts suggest China is using the prospect of future Trump-Xi meetings, including a potential September White House visit, to delay arms sales and potentially weaken U.S. support for Taiwan. According to the Liberty Times, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth delivered a security policy speech at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore on May 30th, warning against China's historic military expansion and growing operational reach. Hegseth called on Indo-Pacific allies to assume greater military responsibility, stating that the U.S. expects its Asian allies and partners to increase their defense spending to 3.5% of their gross domestic product, GDP. He also pledged that the U.S. itself would invest $1.5 trillion in its own military. Hegseth emphasized that the era of the U.S. subsidizing the defense of wealthy nations has ended, and free riding will no longer be tolerated. These demand for increased military expenditure aligns with the defense policies expected from a future Trump administration. While Hegseth did not name specific countries, the U.S. has consistently urged Indo-Pacific allies to boost their defense budgets. The move suggests this standard may become a key metric for evaluating partner contributions to regional defense. He briefly added that Washington maintains military communication channels with Beijing. A 60-year-old Canadian engineer, Kenneth has pleaded guilty to 14 counts of counseling and aiding suicide after operating websites that sold deadly chemicals and suicide tools to over 40 countries. Prosecutors estimate that his actions are linked to more than 100 deaths worldwide. To evade detection by international police, Law cunningly disguised his illicit business as an industrial food processing wholesaler, even listing items like chili sauce on his sales sites, along with detailed instructions for the lethal substances. Before his websites were shut down, Law had dispatched 1,209 packages containing deadly poisons to 41 countries, predominantly the UK and the US. He admitted responsibility for 79 deaths in the UK and earned approximately $296,981 Canadian dollars from these sales. The wefter heartbreaking accounts, including a 16-year-old victim in Ontario and others who called emergency services in extreme distress and regret after consuming the poisons. One victim tragically died clutching the phone. Initially facing 14 counts of first-degree murder, Law's charges were reduced to counseling or aiding suicide due to Canadian legal precedents regarding the difficulty of direct murder convictions for merely providing materials. This plea bargain, carrying a maximum sentence of 14 years, has sparked fierce anger among victims' families outside the courthouse. One father, who lost his 18-year-old daughter, tearfully denounced the agreement as a disgrace, stating that Law didn't really face the victims. The Canadian judge has agreed to consider the 79 UK deaths and other related international fatalities during sentencing, expected in September. This news was reported by the Liberty Times. The U.S. government, as reported by the Epoch Times, announced a new round of sanctions on Thursday, May 28th, targeting Iran's illicit oil trade network. This action aims to cut off a crucial financial lifeline for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, and other Iranian military institutions. The sanctions specifically target 16 entities, 1 individual, and 8 oil tankers accused of transporting Iranian products. Notably, 9 of the sanctioned companies are directly linked to Hong Kong or mainland China, with offices or registered addresses in the region, and are identified by the U.S. as key nodes in Iran's shadow oil economy. These companies allegedly procured refined petroleum for Iran's armed forces or facilitated the shipment of millions of barrels of crude oil to China. This move is part of the Trump administration's Economic Fury campaign. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that these sanctions are intended to deprive the Iranian regime and its military of the financial resources needed to threaten allies and rebuild military capabilities. Additionally, the State Department's Rewards for Justice program offers up to $15 million for information leading to the disruption of the IRGC's financial mechanisms. Despite these punitive measures, U.S. officials also indicated preliminary agreement with Iran on extending a ceasefire and initiating new nuclear talks, reflecting a negotiate while pressuring strategy. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.